And when I'm on stage, that the nervousness is part of my brain kind of coming into focus on the thing that's about to happen and then being sharp and unfiltered right at the moment where the thing starts.
I like that phrasing. There's really a thing I want to always ask you.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. I mean, we had so many one-on-ones and I never really ask you. So there are like this big conferences, right?
Yeah.
Like built. And I don't really know. So what do you think? How many people, if you have, like the rock star talk with Dustin, it is the talk, right? It's the what's new in C#. How many people are in that room? Hundreds.
Definitely hundreds. That's sometimes 1,000. I think we had 2,000 once, but it's rare that we have a room that's big enough for that.
And you're both nervous, I get, when you're before you go on stage?
I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, I'm nervous.
What I'm so curious about is actually, so like, I mean, I pretty much saw every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think already because I need to learn at one point what's new in C#. But then like 1, 2, or 3 minutes into the talk, do things change in terms of nervousness or excitement or?
They change about 2 seconds into the talk for me. I am nervous until I step on stage. And I think when I say nervous, I think what I'm really saying is I'm building up this rush of adrenaline. And then once I get on stage, I feel energized and comfortable.
Oh.
And in like the majority of cases, I've definitely had things not go so well, but the nervousness is before. And when I'm on stage, that the nervousness is part of my brain kind of coming into focus on the thing that's about to happen and then being sharp and unfiltered right at the moment where the thing starts.
I like that phrasing.
So it's my body getting ready.
So, I mean, in the last episode, we briefly talked about the biochemical setup, what was it, frontal cortex?
Yeah.
We talked about dopamine. Do you think that is like the kind of medication that the self-medication that you're actually like more or less inducing with that?
In a way, I think that everybody who goes on stage, ADHD or not, they probably have a similar, or whenever you are like, you're embarking on something important, your body has this whole system for like making sure you're up to it. It has these extra energy reserves and focus chemicals and whatever that it's throwing at you for that. So I think that in and of itself is not an ADHD thing, but it does mean that I am also naturally medicated when I'm on stage. So it also helps with the things that where ADHD would normally like trip me up or whatever, that tends not to happen on stage because I'm running on adrenaline.
So I'm wondering, in a way, both of us had the ADHD diagnosis pretty late in the game.
Yes.
And did your assessment of when you're doing but to stay with that example, you're doing the C# talks, for example, for, I don't know, pretty much since C# 2, right? So that means for
20 years.
20 years. How you assess your reactions or your self-critic after like a talk is over. I mean, I would say it's like, you're going up in the excitement level, and then in retrospect, then you're getting this in this calm state when you're like off stage, you're talking to the people, and maybe there's something like a self-reflection, or what just happened. Was it a good talk? What were the reactions and so on? Once you got your diagnosis, did your self-assessment for such situations change in any way?
I don't know. I think generally I felt pretty good. After I felt pretty good, even before I knew I had anything ADHD related. I think I don't know. Usually I keep doing these talks because usually they're a good experience for me. I might even have an overinflated sense of how well it went because I had a good experience doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that hasn't actually changed all that much.
Are there other areas where I would say you're more appreciative of the things you can do, or you're like becoming more conscious that the reason that you can do them so well are now, I mean, they obviously were always like that because you didn't change. The only thing that changed was that at one point you got a diagnosis. Did your like appreciation for certain things that you can do very well, did it become more conscious, or?
Yeah, I think I'm much more aware
Mm-hmm.
of where my strengths and weaknesses are. So yeah, I do. Instead of saying, "Phew, that went well," I can sort of like connect it to what it is that made it go well or not so well in a different way. I think in that sense, yeah.
So that means that also at the same time, then knowing about the diagnosis is then also more of the chance to more actively improve what you can do well.
Absolutely.
And that's actually where I was.
That is where you're going. Oh yeah. No,
Sorry,
I think
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, like talking about the good things.
Yeah.
I think in many ways, ADHD in and of itself has been a good thing for me without me ever knowing.
Yeah.
In the kind of, and we can maybe we'll talk more about that, the kind of positive skills, the superpowers or whatever that the brain differences kind of accrue. But I think also the discovery itself for me has been quite a gift, even as just like a chance. Like I'm in my 50s. I was in my 50s when I got diagnosed. At this chance to kind of get a fresh look at myself, to kind of have a shot at growing as a person and growing in my relationships, getting to a place of more authenticity and more agency. And it's kind of, I realize I'm now thinking about life much more in the terms of a journey. I think we used the word journey a lot in these episodes. Like life is a journey. There's constant like opportunities for growth and experience and curiosity. And I don't think I thought of things like that before as much.
But was curiosity always one of the major drivers for you?
I've always been a curious person.
Yeah.
But I think this idea that I could change and grow so much, and that my life and how I connect with it, the people in my life and so on, that there was so much evolution available to me as someone who's like at a steady place in life, have a job, have a, family, all that. That was an unexpected gift to me. And I really felt like it was a project of the best kind, a labor of love, and is to kind of just engage with that, to enjoy it, to be curious about it, to dig my teeth into it. And that in and of itself is an unexpected gift, which part of it is just this discovery happened at this point in time, but also the maybe the increase in like building the skills and the toolbox to deal with the negative things that might have gotten in the way of that experience.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like both getting better at handling the ADHD at the same time as I'm enjoying the journey that it's
Yeah,
given.
that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. So would you say then that, I mean, I think it's a natural habit that we, you know, if we're doing a job that we really like, and that I love it, that's what I have to put out. And I was always extremely grateful that actually, I mean, I don't know if that is politically wise to say it like openly, but I'm getting paid for my hobby. I mean, that's extremely satisfying and a great luck that you have, fortune. But the awareness of that and your journey with ADHD and like the realization, did it kind of accelerate the more active working on the positives and overcome the negatives?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. I think it essentially, it's a discovery that led to a whole lot of feeling of agency. I have agency in my life like I never had before. I'm much less a victim of circumstances and much more, you know,
Control.
have much more control or impact on what my life is and what it feels like. And I probably always had, but it's just, it's as much as a change of perspective as it is a change of reality, maybe. I don't know. How about you?
I think, yeah, I can pretty much relate to that. And up to the point where, I mean, you mentioned last time, I don't know if you mentioned it in the episode of when we talked offline about that if you want to, you know, get into that creative flow and hyper focus, then we reached, and I say we reached that at one point, but it was not really controllable. And this is what actually was, for me, before the whole journey started, always something of where I had mixed emotions about, right? I was really thankful that I could hyperfocus, but I didn't really have the mechanisms to, you know, switch it on when I really needed it. Sometimes I couldn't even switch it on completely. And only if I, you know, learned more about it, that was the point where I could start way more, you know, have the influence about it and then utilize the superpowers, the superpower aspect of ADHD, if you will.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But then also, I think then very lately, something happened, which was for me, a thing which in the moment, you could almost say democratized away all the shortcomings that probably I have I had and still have because of ADHD. So for example, I was always really almost envying the people that were able to, you know, write bug-free or error-free code in an enormous amount, and then at a very short time. And I can also write that code. But because of the distractions that I had, since the writing of the code is not part of the exciting thing that actually, you know, is that what I would describe as my superpower. So, you know, be innovative and stuff like that.
Kind of fuels the focus and the creativity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I almost had, you know, a lot of trouble in, you know, staying then on that. And then those innovations were almost, going away. But then along came AI.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I remember when I first saw an episode about a very early demonstration of ChatGPT. I don't know what version that was. It was like really early. I was thinking, oh my God, that's something scary. But that lasted only for, I would say, like a couple of minutes, because in that episode, they also showed, hey, and by the way, you can already try this out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried that out. And then the results at the beginning were like, well, had a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing that I noticed already is that the time from an exciting thing to the next exciting fueling thing to the next exciting fueling thing was reduced more and more. So fast forward, I don't know, 2 years, there was really this journey of observing very closely what can those things do and what can't they do. And I'm still not, I would say, someone who says, oh, AI will, like replace us all and take over the jobs and so on. And I don't really think. And the reason I don't think that is that there's from my perspective, and as I learned how to utilize AI, especially with regards to my shortcomings through ADHD, is that at least for the moment, there's a big difference between knowing and understanding. The AI knows a lot or know a lot, but the weird box that you're getting back is the understanding or is related to the understanding. And as long as that happens, I'm happy that I have like intelligence and even more. I mean, credit to the AIs, but the gaps that I had before in terms of I'm losing concentration because the code writing is really boring. I can concentrate now on those things that keep my attention level at a point. But I think at the same time, while this is like, really getting up my personal alley, I'm like, my brain is set up in a way where I can ideally, and I'm lucky to have that, utilizing it in a way that it's keeping my attention that way, and that I can be very productive, and it's democratizing away all those things. I need to be very mindful that brains are working differently. This is definitely not true for everybody. And this is also something that I think, like right now, we need to be very mindful that those things, which can be fuel for, like certain types of ADHD, can at the same time also scaring people off and do the exact opposite. Having the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think we're all still learning how AI works with different people and styles and so on. But I think it's very interesting what you say, that it's sort of like, because one thing I can definitely empathize with is that the ADHD brain abhors drudgery in a sense. And especially when you're in that precious flow state of trying to be creative, the idea is forming in your mind. And then when the world around you can't keep up. And often for us, the world around us is the development environment or whatever. And you can't keep up. And you have all this drudgery that you need to do. And now you need to get it to compile, and you need to, write the boilerplate 90 more times and whatever. And what AI can do, things like Copilot or whatever it can do when it works well, is that it is very good at picking up the drudgery. And so that, in that sense, you can stay on that line of abstract creative thinking and not get pulled in too much into the things that knock you out of your focused space. Is that a fair?
I would say, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think that that is, I would definitely agree to that. But I think it's also super important to mention that there are a lot of experiments that folks should do, maybe connected to not maybe, but definitely when they are on that ADHD journey, how AI, and I don't mean that necessarily in code writing, right? But maybe also in creative to-do lists.
Yeah.
In like decluttering information, because that's certainly something that people with ADHD might have problems with. So I don't know how many times when I'm, like researching bugs, investigating bugs, then there's a comment there. Then the next day I was on a different machine, and then I have something there. But over the time I try to utilize OneDrive to keep everything at least not cluttered in 10 different machines. Yay to me. But still, then there are those files and those files and those nodes and so on. And I can just, give it all to Copilot and say, do me a favor, order that. And then this is something where I can very actively,
I find
use those things for my personal.
I resonate with that as well. I think I've found like before the AI days, I found that a lot of times I need some kind of sparring, some kind of interaction in order for things to, ideas that are bubbling in my head, to get them structured and I find myself increasingly, prompts like help me plan, help me organize, help me structure, of that sort of nature are often what I will use AI for, kind of make up for my disorganized mind in a way.
Yeah.
And compensate for the places where I fall off the cliff.
Do you know the term rubber ducking?
Yes, but maybe not everyone does.
Yeah. But there's even a Wikipedia entry that explains that. So, but I think every developer knows and at some point did it without really knowing it. So that I'm, thinking about a problem and I cannot solve it. So I'm standing up and I'm going into your office. And then I ask, so Matt, do you have 5 minutes? And you say, yeah. And then I'm starting to telling you about my problem. And you don't say anything. And you never do. And then after 5 minutes, I say, that's exactly it.
Yep.
And you go like, well, didn't do anything. And then I went back and the problem is solved. And I think that is something that it's another application for AI. I
agree.
Yeah. So in that regard, those are the things that absolutely.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So what do you think people can actively, like more structural, try to do to find out what tools for themselves work, are there, or help to improve once they realize there's something that they can improve. What do you think is a good approach to tackle the whole thing? Because it's so personal, right? I mean,
you gotta. It is very personal. It is very different. Your situation is different. If you have it, your presentation is different. The things you're struggling with are different. I think get curious and accept that what people say, this will definitely work for you because it worked for me. It might not work for you. For me, there's a lot of trial and error involved. So staying curious and reading and listening and viewing various things. I had a period where I had some very useful coaching as well, and a lot of things to coach. Like this is a great tool. I would come back the next time and say, didn't work for me. My brain didn't agree with it. And being open to the trial and error of it. And also, one thing I noticed and also talked to others with ADHD about is because of there's this kind of craving novelty. There's a way when something becomes drudgery, you stop doing it.
Yes.
And so you can build or put together the best system for being organized or for whatever it is you need tools for. And it works for 3 or 4 months. And all of a sudden it's routine. And you find yourself not doing it. And the system is perfect, except for the one thing, which is you've been doing it for a while.
Yes. Exactly.
and just accept that as a good reason for finding a new system, or finding a new tool or whatever. Your brain just does that. It's not that there's a perfect one that you will eventually find. It's also a journey. Yeah. You're just making a journey. And, lo and behold, this country that you're visiting was exotic for a while. And now you've been here for 4 months and it's just, every day, normal, natural, and you gotta go somewhere else to experience that again.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So that would be one that surprised me. I was like, once I just gotta get my toolbox together, and then I'm set for life. And it's just so very, very clearly not the case.
I think it's also then to come to realize that this is nothing, again, where you failed at.
Yeah.
So when you just, used or started the 8th system for organizing yourself that didn't work.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
That's just how it is.
And then you start the 9th. So in a way, the process of finding new systems that work for you is part of the solution, right?
Yeah.
It is the solution, actually.
In a way, yeah. And honestly, you can look at the positive side of that as well, compared to not having that problem, which is every time you sort of forced or you let yourself stop and think, hey, what works for me now? So you get these like points of introspection or reflection that are built in because your brain has to stop and think every so often when it gets bored and needs to get to the next place. So that's a gift of its own, actually, really.
So I'm curious about one more thing. Do you think there are superpowers that we call them superpowers? It's like
it sounds a little pretentious. Yeah, but it's a technical term in our community to talk of the positive aspects or symptoms, if you will, of ADHD.
And so no matter how we call that, do you think that, or maybe you even did the personal experience after your discovery and the journey that you did so far, were you able to kind of find and then even cultivate those things that you didn't think you had before?
Like new superpowers in a way?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. I'm not aware. I'll give it a think, but right here in real time, I can't give you an example of that. I think one thing that I think I realized is that some of my superpower skills, things that I'm really good at, some of them are like inherent things to the brain working differently, like the pattern matching and those things. And others, I think, are learned, things that are learned the hard way. Like an example, I've always been overly concerned about what other people think. And I've always been a people pleaser, and I've always been like conflict averse. And those things are, those things are pretty direct ADHD things that a lot of people have.
Yes.
Not everyone, but many do.
And a different type of anxiety again, right?
Yes. It's very connected to anxiety that we talked about in earlier episodes. But it means that I built an enormous skill for consensus seeking, and that I've kind of leaned into my empathy and so on. In order to overcome those things, those skills have been important for me, maybe for the wrong reasons, but now they're sort of secondary superpowers in the sense that they are now in my toolbox. Even though I don't have to be driven to them by anxiety anymore, they're still there, and they're still like things I am happy to have. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. But to relate, I would even say that I've had a similar experience. I mean, the culture that we're living now is like a big shift, like triggered by AI, and different people have different speeds of how they can approach and pivot and adapt to that. And I would say that, not that I really discovered something as a new superpower, but it became clear to me that what I would like to call like on-spot creativity, or like really reacting in a very close time frame to a changed situation, is something that I probably, because of ADHD, always had, but it became way more important.
Okay. Yeah.
Which means that when you have something like, and I'm again back into that AI, area, something like vibe coding, the attractiveness of someone with that kind of ADHD might come from the fact that you don't really know what's going to happen when you ask the AI for something to code. But then when the result is not completely nonsense, but then at the same time not as something that you wanted it to be, then the question is, do you start with a new prompt to get what you want, or can you pivot? And that's where you now maybe can apply this kind of superpower and pivot in the moment into a direction, into the other direction, into the other direction. That is something that I found out. I didn't know about that. And I don't really know if there were like comparable things in the life before that would have given me the opportunity to apply that at all.
That makes sense. That exercise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I see that.
So, and I mentioned that maybe that is something that, is true for a lot of more people, but it's just not something that is easily to discover or to accept or to see.
Yeah.
So, so that's
a very
like
cool
you
one.
could say that is the idea of the question.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get that. I think, in general, I want to say I am so happy that I am on this side of this discovery. I feel sorry in some ways, for former Mads, for all the struggles that he had during his life because of it. But also grateful. It's good on this side.
I think there's a decision that I had to make.
Yeah.
It's this half full glass or half empty glass of water. The half full glass of water is, I had the chance to do the journey, and you helped me with the discovery, and I'm super grateful for that. And it absolutely changed my life to the better. The half empty glasses, I was extremely old when I started the journey. And I think the only thing you can do then is to decide, because there's nothing that will tip you from the outside in one or the other direction, to decide, do you want to see the glass as half full or half empty, if that makes sense. And I would like to have the courage then, or the wish to see it as half full.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is just
that is
not helpful.
It's almost back to the Serenity prayer that you brought up in the previous episode, which is that you can't change the fact that you didn't discover it before. You can have you can acknowledge a sadness maybe for things lost, but you can't change it. But you do have agency now because of there are things you can change now because of what you found out. Now is still better than later.
Yes. And I think everything starting with the prefix agent these days is always good, right?
Ha, ha, ha.